Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sparking Change with Gigi. And today's show, we're going to be talking about how important is our self-image and self-confidence in achieving success in our lives. You know, most of us know that our self-image really is what we look at ourselves to be, and we act on that self-image. But we have two self-image, one that we really project to the world and one that we know ourselves to be. So which one is really driving our life is really what this show is about, to help you understand how the two different images that we perceive ourselves to be are really guiding us to our self-confidence and therefore achieving our success in life. And today's guest, Karen, will come on to share with us what we've learned together through our personal development with the Bob Proctor and the Napoleon Hill Institute, to just give us great information how we can apply changes in our life to really create the self-image that we want. So I'm going to bring on Karen. Welcome to Sparking Change with Gigi. I'm honored for you to be here and speak with us.
Oh, thank you. Hi,
You're welcome. You know, we work together and we learn so much. And this is what we like to do, is really share with people how change in our life can really help us to become that better version. But it all starts truly about how we feel about ourselves and the level of confidence that we have in achieving our goals. So let's talk about, self-image as, like, what is it? Like, let's define it for the audience. How we have learned that self-image, how we perceive it.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I'm really honored to be here with you.
Thank you.
I call you Giovanna.
Yes, you can call me Giovanna.
I call you, that's fine. So when I heard Gigi, I was like, oh, that's different. But so yeah, self-image. Oh my gosh, that's the foundation to who we are. That's that, you know, for me, I define self-image. There's two versions, and I believe you said it at the beginning, you know, who we show up to the world and who we are behind those closed doors are two separate personalities, people. And how you show up on the world is usually has the backing of what people are expecting of you, what you think people are expecting of you, how you think that you need to be, behave, look, you know, the personality all around. But most of the times it's not the truth. It's not your truth. And so I think tonight is all about really inviting and embracing your truth, the truth that is behind the doors, because that truth of what you think of yourself, how you see yourself, your potential, whether you think you're beautiful or not, or intelligent, whether you think you're capable, all of that is your truth. And it doesn't matter how you show up in front of others. Your truth is your foundation, and that is what's driving you. And our results show that truth.
Of course. And I know it's all about, you know, when you say truth, it's about being authentic, right?
Exactly.
And if you're not authentic to yourself, I think that's when we find ourselves, you know, having a struggle between what we are trying to be versus what we are.
Right.
And
I want to say, Gigi, what we are at the moment, right? Because, you know, who we want to be That's just one version, right? So before we get into that topic,
Yes.
but who we are is only temporary up until you make the choice not to be that individual. And so our truth is truth up until the point that we decide to make that change. So when you say, and we're talking about what is that persona behind the doors? And that persona behind the doors is someone that's shy, that probably is not, doesn't feel like he or she can, be part of a community, feels isolated, has the anxiety, and doesn't think that she's worthy of so many things. That truth is only temporary truth until you start to believe that there is more within you.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted to just define what that truth is, because truth is only true up until the point that you choose that not to be your truth.
And it's making a decision.
Right.
Yes.
It's making a decision, and we get to choose that. And that's the beauty of personal development in my book, is the growth, the unfolding that we find out and discover about ourselves in the process.
Exactly. And I think when, most of us, I mean, I know for myself, I had to hit rock bottom to say, wait a minute, is this really me? And I shared a story before that I came from Italy, and I changed my name from Giovanna to Joanne. And a mentor Lefford, he laughs at me because he's like, how many names do you have? And I'm like, believe it or not, now that I think about it, each name, Giovanna has one identity. I was supposed to be Giovanni, named after my grandfather, but I was a girl and became Giovanna, right? Then I came here from Italy and I changed my name to Joanne because I didn't want people to know that I was a foreigner, an immigrant. So I looked in the dictionary and I picked the name, one
Wow.
name and I picked Joanne. So all my adult life, from school to adult life, I went through with Joanne until Joanne realized I couldn't play that role anymore. Like, meeting people's expectation and not being who I was.
Mm.
I,
You
yeah,
said something really important there, Giovanna. And what you said was, we can play it, we can play a role, but eventually that role is no longer your primary. Like, in other words, eventually it dies, right? Because the truth, your higher version, is always seeking to be expressed. So this beautiful name, Giovanna, is meant to be expressed. It comes with an identity, and that identity is the one that you now embody, right? And that you embrace, and then therefore you get to know more about yourself when you let go and you embrace that idea. And it's important for us to all hear that we can play a role up until the point that it expires, because
yeah,
it will expire if it's not your truth.
yes. And that's what I went through. And I went back to being Joanne, Giovanna, because I knew that something was not right. And, your body, your mind will let you know, like you said, until you know that's not who it can be anymore.
Right.
Whether you feel unfulfilled. My story is I got cancer. Why? Because I was trying to be someone that I wasn't.
Mm.
And, there's many people out there who go out to make other people happy, whether it's their parents, to go out and go have a career because it's the family thing to do, follow, the family path. But if they're not going after what they truly want and
Mhm.
what they desire, they're going to feel, there's something wrong. There's something missing.
There's something missing. Absolutely.
Right?
It's that, it's interesting because I was doing my previous career. At the beginning, it was fascinating because it was new. And so when we're entertained with something new, we enjoy it. And I really did enjoy it. but I never stopped feeling that question or that desire, like, what else, right? Because
Mhm.
we're not giving life to something that is seeking expression within us, and we don't know it at that time. And that's the beautiful thing of life. It's all those experiences helps us discover more about ourselves. So back then, I just knew that I was seeking something, but I had no clue what I was seeking.
Yeah.
Not now, I get to look back and connect the dots and say, wow, my soul was seeking expression here. That's why I would get in moments of like, oh, what else can I do? What else? There's this desire for more, and you don't know what that is. And
Yeah.
so again, that truth eventually shows up. And I think in a lot of people, is what most people call like midlife crisis, the restart again, and so forth.
Yeah.
We give the significance to any title, right? For
Yeah.
me, even I mean, I started again in my 40s, right? Starting after 18 years in a career, I started again, and it was just I was after my truth, like, what is my purpose? I wanted to know what that was. And I think we all, if we're really not anchored to something that really brings joy and fulfillment in our life,
Mhm.
then we know, and there is that that desire within us seeking to be expressed.
And that's why we keep, I know for me, I went from going, studying finance to being in corporate America to being an educator to getting my license in real estate to getting my license in esthetician. And I kept going, my family is like, what are you doing? Like, you don't know what you want in life. You got all these things, and I'm like, yeah, I have to learn. I keep learning. But in essence, what I was seeking
Mm-hmm.
was to really go and find my purpose. Like,
Absolutely.
why am I here?
Absolutely.
And we all ask that question. I know I met lots of people who are still seeking, like, what their passion is. Like, what am I supposed to do here? Why am I here? Like, that question still has not been answered,
Mm-hmm.
for some of my friends. And it's guiding them into knowing, what image are you seeing yourself as,
Absolutely.
right? Because if you see yourself as something you're not going to find your passion,
Mm-hmm.
because
Absolutely.
you're playing a role, right? A role that maybe is not in alignment with what, um, you're called to do.
And self-image has, we started out saying that that is the foundation to everything that we do. We don't realize that how we look at something, the way we touch something, the way we make decisions, how we react or respond to circumstances. It's, the decisions that we make towards doing something that we even invite or acknowledge within ourselves. That's all around self image. Everything
Right.
that we do is around self image. And it's so important for us to discover, like, how strong is my self image? How, in a number scale of 1 to 10, how truthful am I to how I do things in my life based on what I truly desire and believe in me? Or am I acting out of expectations or because I feel I need to do something? And it's never about me, it's always about somebody else.
Well, that truly leads me to, um, express how we do a lot of comparing to that someone else. And when we do a lot of comparing, that not only hurts our self-image, because now we're saying, I want to be like her, but I can't. Or so your self-esteem gets impacted negatively because you're trying to compare to someone else that you can't be. But we
Exactly.
also learn that we all have our gifts. We don't have to compare, and
Mhm.
that's part of really understanding, who we are and what we have that can lead us to the path that we're meant to be on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
It's a good question. I find that I learn the most by asking myself questions that I don't necessarily was accustomed to asking. And
Mm-hmm.
so, for our audience is like when you're asking yourself, well, what type of self-image do I have? I think it's important for us to ask ourselves, is like, okay, how do I feel about myself? Right? Do I believe that I'm beautiful, that I'm intelligent, that I'm capable of doing the career that I desire to do? Asking ourselves questions helps us understand more of ourselves, because when we ask ourselves a question, that infinite intelligence within us will always give us the truth. So the truth that I'm speaking about is that soul, that core, co-create,
Being.
yeah, that God truth, right? Our higher power truth.
Mm-hmm.
So we really can't ask ourselves a question and get a negative answer. It'll never give us a negative answer.
Right.
Um, if somebody were to challenge that challenge would be that it's your paradigm that would be answering. You would hear your soul will answer the truth in your paradigm because it's so loud within you. It would
Mm-hmm.
feel and seem like that is the truth, that paradigm. And so I think that when you ask those questions, it's important to start to ask that question. It's like, well, why do I limit myself to this? Or why do I believe that maybe this wasn't for me, even though you received that inspired thought?
Right.
Why did you not take action on that? And I think questions like that, Giovanna, I don't know about you, but I think those type of questions help us start to become more consciously aware
Yes.
of what our truth at those moments really are, that become habitual where we don't recognize it.
I truly agree. And I know, the self-talk that we have with ourselves, can either be for us or against us.
Absolutely.
And most of the time, we're using self talk that's against us because we don't believe that we
Mhm.
can accomplish something to get us to where we want to be. Right.
Absolutely.
And so we can be, we can create a self image even internally if we would um, give ourselves the opportunity to feel that we can accomplish anything we want,
Yeah.
versus saying, no, we can't do that because we are comparing ourselves to somebody else who did it with a different background. And so it makes us feel like this can't be. And when we're looking at the environment around us and we're, looking at what everybody else is doing, that kind of kills our confidence that we can do it.
Absolutely, because we're defining um
You're
we're
saying, yeah,
yeah, we are the same, but yet we compare ourselves, and that comparisons is what decreases the faith within ourselves. And
exactly.
you mentioned something, you mentioned about that, what we believe, and the internal conversation you mentioned,
Yes.
and so it's powerful, because I think for our audience it's important for them to understand that any thought that we have, our conscious, we have, like, it's two minds, right? The conscious mind and then the subconscious. The conscious mind accepts and rejects everything. It has that choice, but our subconscious does not. And so when we are used to, now just to hear this, right? When we are used to saying, no, I can't do this, and it so easily comes from from you, limiting yourself, that is a habit. That is something that's already been impressed in your subconscious. So it becomes a habit, and we don't recognize the the um the service that we are doing to ourselves, because we're limiting ourselves to not being conscious that we get to choose. And so that in the process, when we are comparing ourselves, it's a habit of saying, okay, what are they doing better than I am? And that has a meaning of that I'm not enough, or I don't know enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much significance behind the behavior and the autopilot response and action. And that is an image. That is our self-image.
Absolutely. It totally is on autopilot until, like you said initially, until you decide you want to change
Yes.
that image and create a new habit, create new beliefs around who you want to become. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about like the beliefs that really create our self-image and how they prevent us from really achieving success in any area of our life, no matter what stage you're in. So we'll be right back.
Now, the vast majority, approximately 95% of the people of all countries, go around and around without aim or purpose. They drift with the circumstances of life, good or bad.
A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind.
Whereas the successful individuals create their own circumstances and ride them to victory.
When you're on purpose, you're living on purpose. You will never quit if you have a real purpose.
A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. But what I have done has been recorded, it's been tested, it's being taken to a free world, and it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born.
And it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born. We're some of those people. That we're spreading this to the world. As your awareness grows, the doubt is gone, so that you can manifest whatever it is your heart desires. Isn't that beautiful?
I love that.
I do too. I can play it over and over again because for me, it's like, if you know what you want, you're in control, right? And your self-image guides you to where you should be. And if you're not there, you're drifting, basically, because you're trying to find the higher self, your soul, and what the purpose is. But I wanted to go into, you mentioned the subconscious mind, and we know that is where your beliefs are that really drive your self-image.
Right.
And studying Dr. Bruce Lipton, he wrote the book Biology of Belief.
Mm-hmm.
And he points out that from when you're born to about 6 or 7, your subconscious mind is formed with all these beliefs that are coming from, your parents, your grandparents, your environment, your school. And that kind of like sets the stage that you mentioned about being on autopilot. We're working from those beliefs that are from a very young age. And until we recognize that there are beliefs that don't serve us and change those beliefs, we are truly working from those beliefs that were from a young age.
Right.
So that gives us the results we have in our life, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went into personal development, I had no idea this information even existed, that for me to change and truly find my purpose and become who I'm meant to become, I needed to change some of the beliefs I had within me. you know, and that is called inner work.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of like what I feel. I mean, I take my clients to that, and they're amazed to see, wow, I didn't create that belief. Well, if you didn't create it, then it's not yours, but yet it's driving your life. And, simple example would be something like you said you're shy, you're growing up shy, you don't want to do anything, you're closed. And now it's time to go into a new career that they want you to go do presentations for a company. And you're like, oh my God, there's no way I cannot do these presentations. Why? Because you have a belief that, you can't. Public speaking, you're afraid of public speaking.
Yes.
But that's from your past.
You mentioned there's so much nuggets, there's so much gold in everything that you just mentioned. And, allowing, our audience here to become aware that the majority of the beliefs that we have, and like you mentioned, our subconscious is open to, for a very limited time period, but very crucial, which is where we are allowing basically the least control that we have in our lives, right? Because we're open to doing what our parents and our grandparents and society and everything, they're always telling us and dictating to us. And these beliefs at that point were accepted with not having the consciousness of that choice, but we have that now. And so when we become, and it goes back to asking those questions, when we become conscious to ask questions, is this a belief that's actually serving me or not? Then you can see the power in the question and then find the truth within yourself, because you really come to acknowledge, well, hold on, where did I come thinking this belief? Where did it come from? At what point did I accept this? And if it was something from my parents, okay. And I wouldn't say simmer on that. No, acknowledge it. And then what is the significance that you're willing to give it? What is the belief that you're willing to shift and modify? Because at that very moment, it's our responsibility to make the decision to change that belief, because you now are conscious enough to realize that does not serve you. And what it does, it's holding you back from being your higher version. And so you said we change beliefs through, there's two ways to change beliefs. And I think this is important for our audience, because we talk about changing it, but how do we change it? Well, there's two ways. One is through an emotional impact. And it could be as simple, and I have something that came to me intuitively here, a very simple example that we probably would disregard. But for example, my son in high school, and he has curly hair. And in the past, he would have short hair. He's had long hair, but he's never covered his forehead. He never had an issue. And then all of a sudden, someone said something or made fun of him, of his forehead. And now his hair is always covering his forehead. That is an emotional impact. It can be as simple as that.
And I'll share another one with you. I heard about this little girl who got hit by the tail of the dog on the right side of her face. And that emotional impact made her always take pictures on the opposite side.
Oh, wow.
Never realized it. Every time she had to take pictures with her friends, it was like, nope, I can't be on this side. I got to be on this side. Always avoided the side that she got hurt, because when she did get hurt, it was that emotional impact, and she felt like the big red mark on her face. So I totally agree. We don't even know it's there.
It happens so naturally.
Yes.
And we don't recognize it. And it wasn't until a couple of months ago, and I tell my son, I was like, you're handsome. Like, you don't need to cover your forehead. Like, you look, and I have to let him be, right? Because he has to discover his own. He has to, that's the I think that would be the hardest thing, I would say, for us as coaches when we are working with our children and somebody else. We have to let them experience it and figure that out for themselves. As much as we want to make the change and tell them what to do,
Yes,
the
they
growth
have to.
happens for them as they. And so he's still dealing with it, but it's just interesting when I recognized, I was like, wow, that was an emotional impact, because he used to be this way and now he's doing this, right?
Yes.
And and when I asked him, like, why all of a sudden, it's like, nothing, I just don't like people making fun of me and this and that. And of course, we never want to feel less than anybody, right? So
Right.
again, that's the emotional impact. And the second way to modify and to change a belief is through the constant repetition. The constant repetition of having the discipline and the willpower
Absolutely.
to go in and play that auto suggestion, write that affirmation of who you are. Who is it that you want to embody? Because there's two powerful parts to this. First of all, I want you to know that when you have the idea of the person you want to be, you are automatically that person.
The idea would have never came to mind if you're not.
That have
Exactly.
never been your idea, okay? It would have never fit into your consciousness. You would have never acknowledged it if it wasn't an idea that you are already that person. The human experience, however, takes the time, and it is through the autosuggestion and the consecutive repetition, right, of
Yes.
what we want to impress into our subconscious. And the reason that we do the repetition is because we're building a new imprint in our subconscious. And our subconscious is our emotional mind.
Yes.
And so when we impress something, when we are impressing, I want you to view it and see it more. It's almost like an emotion that's coming together with an idea. And when it comes together, it is impressed. So in order to create that emotion, when you are completely on the opposite side of it, right? It is through the constant repetition. I am beautiful. I am intelligent. I am wealthy. My life is divine. So the I am is incredibly powerful. It's the most two powerful words that we could ever say. And anything after the I am is a stamp. I love the way Bob would say it is done. It is an imprint. But it's the constant repetition that
And
we
the emotion of it too, right?
an emotion, right? The constant repetition that through the time and the consistency of it, we start to believe. We start to get an emotional attachment to it. And it is all of a sudden, one day, you're just going to be that person. It's not like there's an end game and now I am this person. No, it just naturally happens and you start to act and feel as that individual that you had visioned of. So,
Yes,
go
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you take that into like things that happen in our lives, let's say you are, you want to have a self-image of being, just pick any profession, a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You need to start to embody the vision. You need to feel yourself helping people. You need to feel the emotion behind that self-image that you want to create.
Yes.
And every day you're evolving to that level to get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the truth of who you want to be.
Right.
Right.
That's
but it takes practice.
Right. Yes, it's practice, and Giovanna, and that's the other step to it, right? Is bringing life to that idea.
Yes, of
So through
course.
the constant repetition of what we are writing and we're listening, the way to really bring it together and combine it is by giving life to the idea of that. So my question to the audience would be, ask yourself, who are you? How do you dress when you've reached that person, that version of you? Who are you surrounded by? How do you celebrate? What are you doing? How do you feel about yourself? Because every time that you define any of those questions and so many more that you can, you're fertilizing the original seed of who you want it to be.
You're giving shape to that idea.
Exactly. You're
Yeah.
giving form because everything is energy. So you're giving it form and you're giving it life. Right? So form and which is life. And so every time that we say I am beautiful, even though you may not feel connected to that, you're still giving life to it. And the constant repetition of that will become your truth. And that's the second way, right? And there's so many different ways that Giovanna, you and I can
Of course.
talk about how to bring an image, a vision, and a self-image of ourselves to life. We're used to hearing the, act to fake it till you make it.
Right.
For me, that's very disconnected from the type of energy I love to vibe in. For
Mhm.
me, is more of like, I am that already. So I act as that person and I remind myself how she feels, how she speaks, what she does, how does she dress, who am I surrounded by? What kind of decisions? This is really good one. What are the decisions that this higher version of me make? So that when I'm in my present moment, I am going to make a decision based on how I see her to make decisions. Because you are her, but you're just not necessarily adapted to her yet.
Correct. And I think that it has a lot to do with, what are we surrounding ourselves with? Right?
Mhm.
What are we listening to? Who are we comparing ourselves to? We're looking on the outside to make that shift, and truly the shift has to be inside.
Absolutely.
Right? We have to analyze ourselves versus analyze what's going on outside of us. We can't conform to what's outside of us because it's not how we're meant to enjoy life, right? If we say, even creating a self-image of being happy, the happiness has to start inside. You need to be happy with who you are from the inside first. And I think that, drives our self-confidence, right? If we believe we can achieve, then we will achieve it.
Absolutely.
And our confidence will be high enough to achieve it.
Exactly. It's
Uh,
like we hear it, if you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you can't. And either way, you are right because it's whatever truth you decide to embrace.
I love these, quotes that are from, people who wrote these books 100 years ago, right? Henry Ford said, if you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. And Napoleon Hill said, believe you can achieve, right? Whatever you believe you can achieve. So it's still here and it's the truth. But our mind is so busy with other stuff. We don't stop to really give us a self-assessment and asking ourselves those questions that are very, very important to lead us into the next step, our journey in this life.
Exactly. Exactly. It is a beautiful journey. It's it's a journey that whether I love the fact that anybody that's watching this, it's because you're already into it. It's because you've already So even if you don't study personal development, the fact that you're listening to this means that this wasn't a coincidence. It's because you're about to step into a beautiful journey. Nothing happens with coincidence. It's like everything is beautifully happening for you. And so there's times where I say, gosh, I wish I would have known this at, earlier in my life.
Me too. Yeah.
But if you think about it, it's like everything happens so precisely, beautifully at the right time, because everything that shows up for you at any time that is showing up and you're acknowledging is because you were meant to acknowledge it and you were ready to acknowledge it at that very moment. So my wishing of before, I would not have seen it before. And I can tell you that, oh my gosh, this just totally came to me because my father used to be the type that would say, if you have a headache, hold your temple. Just hold your temple and just say, you are feeling good. You're feeling good. And I used to think it was one of my father's things because he used to love to read.
Yeah.
He was always into books. I was totally I always loved learning, but I wasn't the type to pick up a book and just read for pleasure.
Yeah.
Unless when I was a teenager, I was, but when I got older, I wasn't. And there were so many things that I now look at and say, oh my gosh, my father spoke about this. My father told me about this. My father, da, 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 da. And it wasn't that personal development wasn't presented to me before. It's just that I wasn't ready to see it before.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so for those that are listening here, the fact that you're here, the fact that you're starting to see different things coming to your attention is because you're about to step into a beautiful journey of personal development, of self-discovery. Your life is about to shift. And
because there's a desire for it, right? They have
that desire. There's that seeking, right?
Yes,
Your inner self, that inner expression, that inner side of you is seeking expression. And again, if I look back at my time, I didn't know that that was what it was. But now that I can look back, I can say, oh my gosh, it was showing up. I can only see little bits with the state of consciousness that I had at that moment. And so the purpose of us here and in this world is to continuously level up our consciousness to see more and discover more about ourselves in the process.
It's beautiful. We're going to take another short break, and then we're going to come back and continue talking about things that really help us to move in the direction that we're supposed to be moving, right?
Yeah.
We'll be right back. That was a quick one. So I'd like to talk about, you and I both really lead our clients to more spiritual coaching is what we do, right? This is what we're learning. This is what we do. And part of our, I know for me, and I'm sure you can relate, is helping people get into alignment, right? With their spirit, mind, and body.
Right.
Because everything truly happens when there is alignment.
Mm-hmm.
They are feeling and working from their higher self.
Mm-hmm.
When they feel that there's a struggle, it's because there's a disalignment. And our self-image and our self-confidence, like it's intertwined with what we're meant to really do and discover, and the level of consciousness that we have within us.
Mm-hmm.
How can we how would you guide your clients into helping them understand that alignment?
So alignment for me, and I think when you do feel alignment, And when you start to feel more of alignment throughout your day, it's such a blessing. But it is where there is a space where resistance doesn't exist, where there's a knowing within us that you're in the right path, that your decision was correct, where there is peace, here in your heart, and you're motivated to take action because of it. So to me, that's alignment. It is feeling peace overall, peace in my heart. When I feel resistance, it's a way of me knowing, it's like, okay, what am I necessarily focusing on? Because I will ask myself questions. And so when I'm coaching my clients, and it's like, okay, let's acknowledge what alignment is. It's a thought that you intuitively gain this inspired thought.
Yep.
This inspired thought comes through and it feels good. And because it feels good, you're motivated to take action. It is a fast process. It's like thought, feeling, action. And within those 4 seconds, I would say, because I feel that intuition, I always tell my clients, your intuition is what speaks the first 4 seconds.
Yep.
And after those 4 seconds, it is your paradigm. What's the paradigm? The habitual dominating thoughts that we have that actually dominate 95% of our lives. So when we have this inspired thought and we feel good and we're ready to take action, and then all of a sudden you feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. That's the paradigm. That's the paradigm, because you're doing something that you're not used to doing. Because fear is just you stepping into a new venture, a new level of awareness. Fear, and when we break down fear, we take it down. It doesn't take control over us, because we understand that the process is of growth. But our paradigm, our ego, is meant to protect us.
Right. And it's saying, wait, you're doing something different. This is not, we're not used to this.
It's like, exactly, I'm not used to this. We should be doing it this way because it's more comfortable. That's what we're used to doing it. Why are we going to complicate ourselves? Like, we're used to being in comfort, even though comfort can feel bad, painful, hurtful. But because you are familiar with that emotion, then it becomes your comfort. And that's why we have so much pulling and the resistance. And so when I say, when you have that inspired thought and you're feeling good and you're ready to take action, and then all of a sudden you have that paradigm that kicks in, the resistance is actually, and this is, I heard my mentor one time say this to me, and it was so profound. And she said, the resistance is your soul pulling you back into center.
Wow. Yeah.
Your resistance is your soul pulling you back from all of the outside influence and the paradigms and beliefs, and bringing you back, because the moment that you become aligned, the resistance disappears.
And that's when you really gain the self-confidence, because now you're working from your true self.
Right. Because if you take action, so the confidence comes from the actions that we take.
Exactly.
Based on those thoughts that came through. How many times, have we said, how many times, simple of you come in and you want to drop off your keys where they're not supposed to be, and your inner voice says, just put them in the right place.
Yeah.
Or the umbrella on your way out and you see that it's gloomy and your inner voice says, take the umbrella, and you're like, not right now. I'm in a rush. I gotta go, and then you're wishing you took the umbrella.
Yeah.
Our infinite intelligence is always guiding us. We just need to learn how to raise that volume. And when we raise that volume, so we raise the volume by taking the action, trusting, for that specific moment enough to say, you know what, let me take the umbrella. And if you take the umbrella and then you find yourself needing it, that was a little token towards your confidence that raises it up a little bit for the next time that your inner voice tells you, this is what you do. And then you're like, okay, I heard it. Let me do it. So it is the actions that come after that inner voice that helps us raise our confidence within ourselves, because we see that we're being protected, that we're being guided. Yeah. But the more that we don't do, the more that we don't take those actions, then the fear grows and gains more life, because
versus the faith.
Exactly. Fear versus faith.
Mm-hmm. And they're both unseen.
Exactly. You know what's crazy is that it takes the same amount of energy. At the end, it's a choice. Yeah. It's the free will. It's you being conscious enough to say, you know what, I choose to do this because this serves me.
Exactly. And listening to that inner voice, because it definitely can take you on a, the inner voice can be a good inner voice leading you to where you have to be, or it can take you down a dark path. Absolutely. Right. And sometimes the dark path is truly not your intuition talking. It's you getting out of your comfort zone. But, it wants to take you back into your comfort zone and leads you to miss opportunities, right? Or not feel successful. Because how many times, I know I should have listened to my first, even taking a quiz on a test, my daughter would say, I should have kept with the first answer, right? Instead of changing the answer.
Well, and I'll give you a perfect example. Yesterday, I was doing some calls. And these particular calls I'm not a fan of, but I know that they're, in order to grow your business, you have to do certain calls. And after a couple of no's, I was ready to say, okay, I've done this amount of calls today, let me, and then my intuition say, call this person. And I had actually skipped that number because I had a list that I was going to do. And I had skipped that particular person and I had jumped to the next one. Mm-hmm. And after I did all of them except for that one, I was like, okay, I'm done, And my intuition said, call this person, the one that you skipped. And at first I was going to be like, no, I'm done for today. And then all of a sudden I was like, listen to your intuition. And needless to say, I called that person and it was the one person that was interested.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Isn't it amazing? And again, for me, it was a confirmation.
Listen to the messages, yeah.
Listen to the voice. And so what does that do? It's a domino effect because that excited me, right? Because it excited me, it also fed into my confidence.
Absolutely.
Where, today I'm ready to move forward and do calls because I reminded myself that I'm being guided. I reminded myself that this is how good it feels and so forth. So again, that builds on our confidence. It is the actions that we take from listening to that inner voice.
And I think, if we practice that more, or when we do practice that, it happens more and more and more. Because I know now my thoughts that come to my mind, I do the same thing. Wait a minute, I need to do this. Like I will stop and do it because I know if I don't do it in that minute, I will forget about it. So taking notice of these thoughts that come into your mind, there's a reason why they're coming to you, right? Absolutely. To lead you on the path. I know if we can leave the audience with one great strategy or tool. We said a lot in the show, but I know if you want to create a new image, also write it down. Write down who you want to be. What like you said, what excites you. Put it on paper and pen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would invite our audience here that to work on your self-image. Look at and listen carefully, because I'm not saying go copy anybody. I'm saying look at people that you admire for example, just simple, first person that comes into mind, right? What do I like about her? What are certain characteristics or behaviors, or actually characteristics, traits, skills?
Who did you mention? Because it kind of who did you mention? What name did you mention?
Oh, I mentioned Oprah, which was the first person that came to me. So then you say, okay, well, I love the way that she is so fluent and on the camera. I love that she makes quick decisions, that she, she's giving. So at that point, you say, okay, what are the qualities that I would like to embody myself in my own way? So there's a difference between copying and being someone, and looking at traits of people that are successful, that you look up to, and say, this is something that I would like to embody myself with my personality. And so when you start to look at that, I also recommend do a script, create yourself, write it out, feel her, feel him, how does this feel? And bring life to that vision. And every day I invite you to read it, to feel it, to put music and really become one with it. Because the more that you become one with it, the more that you give life to it, the faster that you become that person that is already within you, but your human side has to become one with it.
It's beautiful, beautiful.
Because our souls already recognize it. It's the human side that doesn't necessarily.
Absolutely, 100%. And you know what? This is when we are listening to what we want. And we, like you said, become one with what we're meant to be. Mm-hmm. This is great, Karen. Thank you so much. How can people get a hold of you? I know you have your website there, mindfulwithkaren.com.
Yes, ma'am. Right there. I invite you to come join. If you subscribe to my newsletter, connect with me. You will find everything mindfulwithkaren.com. And I also have a free download that you can download affirmations, which are good right now for our self-image session. Affirmations that you can start to repeat and say and embody and feel.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Spark and Change. I appreciate you, and I'm sure that people took a lot of notes because this information is golden, and we know because we've changed our self-image to do what we're doing, and we feel, I know you do too, feel fulfilled and grateful for the work that we do to see other people change their lives and be happy, because this is, creating a self-image and self-confidence that really you can achieve success in your personal life, in your business, in your health.
Every part of your life, absolutely.
Every part of your life.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Ivana, thank you so much for having me. It was so good to have this conversation with you. I really
likewise
enjoyed it. So thank you so much, hon.
Likewise. I look forward to having you on again, because you definitely have made a difference. Thank you again, and everyone, we will see you on the next show on Sparking Change with Gigi.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change with Gigi. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchangenow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change with Gigi.